Thank you all for being here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Linda Blanchett, and I'm the coordinator of Staff and Organizational Development, and the Staff and Organizational Development Department is hosting this event today, and I'm happy that you were able to make it. I want to take the time to give you a little bit of a background on our prestigious speaker, Dr. Bob Nelson. Dr. Bob Nelson is considered one of the world's leading experts on employee motivation, engagement, recognition, and rewards. He is president of Nelson Motivation Incorporated, a management training and consulting company in San Diego, California, focused on helping organizations improve their management practices, programs, and systems. Prior to that, he worked with Dr. Ken Blanchard, the one-minute manager, as his vice president, chief of staff, and ghostwriter for 10 years. Dr. Bob has sold 4 million books on management and motivation, which have been translated into 37 languages, including his multi-million copy bestseller, 1001 Ways to Reward Employees, now in a new edition entitled 1501 Ways to Reward Employees. He has worked with 4/5 of the Fortune 500 companies and has presented on 6 continents. He has been featured extensively in the national media, including CBS, 60 Minutes, CNN, PBS, The Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times to discuss how to best motivate today's employees. Dr. Bob holds an MBA in Organizational Behavior from UC Berkeley and received his PhD in Management with the late, great Dr. Peter F. Drucker, the father of modern management, at Claremont Graduate University in Los Angeles. He teaches for the MBA program at the Rady School of Management at UC San Diego. That said, please help me welcome the guru of thank you, Dr. Bob Nelson.
All right. Well, thank you. What a pleasure it is to be here in Portland, and you're welcome for bringing the sun. I live in San Diego, and who's ready to have some fun this afternoon? Anyone? Yes, that's what I like to hear. Okay. For me, it started on the flight from San Diego, because, I just came up the coast, and traveling's a whole different animal these days. There's actually 20% fewer flights up in the air than just a year ago. They're all smaller planes, so they're more fuel efficient. They're all packed. Every seat's taken, more times than not. And with all the layers of security and whatnot, it's a real hassle traveling these days. But eventually you get in the chair and you pull out a newspaper, maybe a novel. Darn if the guy next to me didn't pull out one of my books. And I thought, what a great chance to be a mystery shopper. Excuse me, sir, what do you think of that book? And he got kind of reflective. He goes, my boss gave me the choice of 3 books to read. This one was the shortest. So I took that as a compliment. I write short books, and there's something to that. And the book that you're going to get, Ubuntu, it's a parable. It's a fun read. It's a story. It moves fast, and it's a powerful medium for communication. And all my books, I try to focus on them being short because I'm about trying to translate proven concepts to people that can actually use them in their job, with their families, with their colleagues at work, in community organizations, at church. Practical, proven principles that we know from the management literature, that we have all these journals in America that are written up and studies, and they're mainly read by other professors, and they never really make it to people that actually need and can use the information. So I've made that one of my priorities in my career, is to try to be a translator of proven concepts, and that's what you're going to get here. I got talking more to this guy on the plane. Turns out he was an executive for a firm here in Portland. At one point I said, well, how many people work in your organization? He didn't even blink. He said about half of them. He said, the problem is I don't know which half. So I think there's, I'm all about how we got to create experiences. We got to create places where we're working with others, where we can raise the level of excitement, we can raise the level of focus, where we can have everyone feel a valued part of the team. And if we do that well, we'll get more from everyone along the way. Now, so there's some of my books again, and there's me, and okay, what else do we got? So I'm probably most known for this book, that 1001 Ways to Reward Employees. Just went into as a new edition, has sold about 2 million copies. And so this is what it looks like now. But the one I'm going to focus more on, I'm going to touch on that topic, but I'm really going to focus more on this book that you got, Ubuntu. Everyone say it, Ubuntu. And it's just a fabulous concept. I did this with Dr. Stephen Lundeen. He wrote the Fish books, which are about work that's fun gets done based on the Seattle Pikes Peak market. You might know that. And we were, Steve and I have been friends for a long time, and we were having a beer one day talking about what we do and the challenges. And one of the things that came up was how hard it is to get seemingly common sense principles to get people and managers to take them seriously. That's an ongoing challenge. How do you take things and that people say, oh yeah, I know that's important, and yeah, I know you know that. Now, are you doing it is the question. Can you do it? Will you do it? That's what I'm interested in. And it's hard to get that transition to happen. And in fact, in the Ubuntu book, you're going to find it's focused on a manager who doesn't quite get this. And he's trying to get others, and he ends up managing by doing the work for people, and he doesn't really trust them. And as a result, he ends up micromanaging, and his job is miserable, and the department's failing, and people aren't committed. And he doesn't know what to do with that. And the book is how he discovers this concept of Ubuntu from actually one of his employees. And I won't spoil the story for you, but and how he's able to learn that aspect. So in having a drink with Steve, I think it was the second, maybe the third beer that we started talking about what we'd both have spoken at 6 continents around the world, and we started saying, well, where have you seen this stuff work? What are people doing? And at that point, Steve said, well, when I was in South Africa, and I shared the fish philosophy with different groups, I always asked, is there anything in your culture that is like this? And everyone said, Ubuntu. And so he got curious in it, and then I got curious. We started talking, we started researching it, and we found out, wow, this is a cool thing. That it's a traditional concept from the South African culture of unity and connectedness. And it can be used in a very practical way. So we're going to talk about what that looks like and how it can be used in different venues and how maybe you can use it with teams that you're a part of. Now, and the time to use it now is perhaps greater than ever before. After coming off the Great Recession, there's been a lot of trauma. Over 90% of organizations have had cutbacks of one type or another. So morale's at an all-time low. 47% of executives feel employee trust has declined due because of the lack of budget and the cutbacks and the stressors. And the joy that someone had in not being laid off was quickly squelched when they realized they had to do all the work for the people that were laid off. And I don't know anyone that wouldn't rise to the occasion to make that happen, as a professional, as a committed member of the group, the organization. But I also don't know anyone that would do that time after time, month after month, year after year after year, and not have it take a toll. And that's where we're at now, where it's starting to take a toll, that we have 40% of those people that haven't lost their job are less motivated, 70% are less productive. So in the short term, with the Great Recession, actually productivity went up. Kind of odd. I think it's because people were scared about being on the next layoff list. Frankly, and so they dug in, but you can only do that forever until you feel kind of burnt out and morale declines and productivity with it, and that's actually where we're at now with the whole economy. 66% of companies report a decline in employee engagement. The whole concept and the whole packet of variables around willingness to use discretionary energy, recommend this as a place to work or to shop or to be a member of our organization, and on and on. Currently, that's an all-time low since they've been measuring this variable. So we're kind of up against it when it comes to the human element in the workplace. 54% of employees today report that they plan to change jobs as the economy improves. This is as high as 86%, according to CNN Money. As things get better, people are planning to. We've got this pent-up demand for the last few years where it hasn't been so easy to change jobs. That's going to come into play now as the economy is finally coming around. This includes, it wouldn't be nice if the people that left were all the deadbeats, and no such luck. It includes your top performers. 25% of your top performers, however you measure that in your organization, will be on the short list to leave. It includes the youngest employees, 76% of which say they plan to find a new job as the economy improves. And maybe they haven't been through a recession before. They don't know that there's a cycle to business and things will get better. Instead, they're saying, any place has got to be better work than where I am now because it's so stressful. All we talk about is the cutbacks and things we can't do. They're looking to find a different environment that maybe has a little bit more positive energy where they can feel they're making a bigger difference. So this is, it gets positive from here. So this is the current lay of the land. And I find that when you layer in the other changes in our society, we're at a time where we really need to rekindle the human spirit. Things like the social media revolution. So the social media revolution, it affects everything that we're doing, there's no telling where it's going to end up, but I knew it does affect how we're going to be hiring people, who we're going to be hiring, how we communicate with them, how we motivate them. And one of the signs of the changing times, you can now get actually a paid job taking care of people's imaginary animals on Farmville. That's where it's going, okay? So a third of the jobs that will be in existence 15 years from now don't exist today because the things are changing, the technologies that we need to do those jobs. Currently, we have already an extreme shortage of skilled workers in our country. In the manufacturing sector, we've got 3 million people short in skilled labor, of people that have the skills to do the jobs that are currently available. The federal government right now has 20,000 openings for accountants. They can't fill them. So it's odd to talk about that during a time of high unemployment, but it's very real, the fact that having people ready for the jobs that currently exist and will exist is a major challenge in this country. And it's places like PCC that can really help meet that challenge as you connect with employers in the area and help prepare people for the jobs that they need now, to have that discussion now. It's not going to happen at the national level, okay? We're at loggerheads between business and government. Education is not even a part of the discussion at the national level. It's got to happen at the community level, okay? In Germany, 15 years ago, they were in a recession. They got the leaders of education with the leaders of business, with the leaders of government, and they said, where are things going? How can we work together to be ready for the future before it arrives? And now, 15 years later, they're the strongest economy in Europe because of that planning. Businesses are desperate for this. You are at the hub of making it happen. I hope you don't squander that opportunity. So taking us back to, with all that's going on, all the stresses of a down economy, et cetera, the amount of change going on, it's time to rekindle the human element in the workplace. And that's when I want to get back and rein myself in here and talk about this concept of Ubuntu. And again, in a nutshell, it's the idea that a person is a person through other people. Okay, very simple concept. And that another way of saying that is that I am because we are. And any success I have is because of what we do together. The idea, the concept of starting, as you're working with others, with the common element. What do we have in common? Why is this important to both of us? And to bury the all about me start point and to loop in the other person and their priorities. And if you do that, you get a better, more effective result that is more sustained as you make that an approach as to how you handle relationships and groups of any type. That, in a nutshell, when we did this book, I actually commissioned someone to do a video to try to capture this whole idea of Ubuntu and what it looks like. And here's what they came up with. Michael. So, thank you. We're gonna break that down and try to understand it a little bit more. In fact, you saw in that clip of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela really helped to personify this whole concept. After the fall of apartheid, where the South Africa had been colonized for 600 years, and they ended a division between whites and blacks, and the blacks gained power. And it was a whole new beginning for them. A lot of the blacks felt it was time to get even, time for them to be in power, time to suppress the whites. And Nelson Mandela, who was elected the first president of Republic of South Africa, he said, "That's not the way. That's not the way. Instead, we need to embrace those that have opposed us." And he actually defined Ubuntu as the profound sense that we are to accomplish anything in this world, it will be in equal measure be due to the work and achievements of others. We need each other. If we do to them what they did to us, we'll be no better than them. We'll be no further along. And he came up with this concept that from their own culture, and he represented that. And he actually, I find that we're all connected. We all have so many things in common that we need to focus more on that. You wouldn't know that from looking at the paper, because all we talk about is blue states and red states, and my religion's right and yours is wrong, and that type of thing. We're all about being divisive in our society. We don't have to be. We can focus on what we have in common. We all have families. This is my tribe back in San Diego. And my lovely wife Jennifer, our two above average children, Danny and Michelle. Danny just graduated college. Currently 22, Michelle's 16. She just started her senior year in high school. There's a couple things about this picture. First, you can tell we all shop at the same store. The other thing that may not be so readily apparent is that Danny, in his college education, that included 3 years of Arabic. Michelle has just started her 4th year of Mandarin Chinese. The world's becoming a smaller place very quickly. Very, very quickly. Michelle's already spent time in China. She spent last summer at Oxford. She came with me to South Africa in January. Did I mention she was 16 at the time? I don't know about you, but when I was 16, I was thinking about Boy Scout camp about 10 miles away. Her horizons, the world's her oyster. And the possibilities of what our youth can do is unlimited. If we have world peace in our lifetime, it's because of how this generation sees the things we have in common more than the things that set us apart. The connectivity of the internet and how it is a great equalizer around the globe, and how that we're all part of that if we open our eyes to it. Now, I feel we're all connected. My dad was in the military, so we end up moving every 3 years of our lives in a different place. And everyone I knew was doing everything. Everyone we knew was doing the same thing, so it didn't seem strange to us. It seems kind of strange now to think about it, to pick up roots and go move to a different town or community. We lived overseas, but I learned along the way that we'd move to a community. Even when I was a little kid, the first thing I'd do is I'd go and start knocking on doors in the neighborhood and say, "Hey, do you have any kids my age? Because I'm looking for someone to play with. It's going to be a long, lonely summer if I don't find someone." and I learned to be connected, to take charge, and I feel this is a simple thing that we don't practice enough. And I'd like us to practice it right now. I'd like to. I know we're in seats, we're in seats and whatnot. Yes, okay. Thank you for that. But if you can, if we just turn up the lights just a little bit. I'd like you just to, the people on either side of you, I'd like to talk, if you don't know them, or even if you do, find something you have in common with them that you didn't realize. Okay, and let's take we're all in the same school off the table as the first thing, but just find out, and whatever that might be. So just take a moment and do that. Turn to the people on either side of you and find something you have in common that you didn't realize. Okay, that's a quick activity. Let's get back together. Let's see what you talked about. Who talked about? Who? Baby. Who talked about kids or family? Anyone? Okay, turn up the lights just a tad, if you would. Okay, how about pets? Anyone talk about pets? Sure. How about hobbies? Any type? Anyone? All right, good. How about sports? Some people. And what about alumni? Other schools, that type of thing, or where you live in town? Anyone talk about that? Yeah. So it's easy to find common ground with those around us, and it's easy to do this in any group that you're a part of, whether at church or whether at work. To take time to just go around the group next time you get together. Say everyone share two things that motivates them. Everyone share two things that are important to them. By doing that exercise, you can do it in 10 minutes. You will learn things about others that you didn't realize. And as you do that, you will create bonds between you that will make the team stronger. I've done that with people that have worked together side by side for 10 years, and in the next 10 minutes, they learn something they didn't know about everyone else that they work with. And it makes for a stronger team. And as you learn about people, you've got more chance to interact with them about those things, more ways to acknowledge them when they've been helpful to you. So on a practical level, that type of thing works. Now, when we look at Ubuntu and dissect it a little bit, I want to discuss a couple key elements. Common vision, this unity aspect, idea of what that looks like. Shared, I'm not sure about this thing. Shared, and this is my computer, so I got to blame myself. So I don't know what's going on there. Shared experiences, inspiration, empathy, teamwork, and recognition. These are the elements we're going to hit on here, each of those briefly. The first, wow, now it's got a mind of its own. The first is common vision, the sense of unity of purpose. Now we know that all performance starts with clear goals and expectations. Any goal of any group, you've got to have a common element, a common purpose. You've got to outline that, and you've got to get buy-in and commitment to it. We know that as a fundamental for any group, for any organization for that matter, that the best goals are few in number, specific in focus. The longer your to-do list is, the greater the chance you're not going to do any of it. The more goals you have, the greater chance that all of a sudden you don't have any goals. You got to focus on the short list of what will make a difference going forward, the one or two things, or maybe three at most, and rally around that and get clarity and gain consensus around that. We know the best goals are stretch goals. They're not too easy. They're not too hard. If they're too easy, they're not motivated. We don't even try. If they're too hard, that we don't think we can achieve that goal, we don't try. The best, most motivating goals are somewhere in between. Maybe about a 70% chance that if we work at it, we can achieve that. That's a good goal. The best goals today are collaborative. The days of telling people what to do are over. Okay? It comes from discussing the goals and together coming up with a mutual goal that we both can commit to. You do that with your group, with your team, you will set a tougher goal than anyone that could ever be assigned to you, with a greater chance of achieving that goal. Okay, these are things that we know from the management literature. It's very important how you frame and start any type of work, and if you do that well, it's very motivating. Now, when it comes to this topic of Ubuntu, now there's a movie that came out last year. Some of you might have seen Invictus. Anyone here see that movie? And for the rest of you, you got a homework assignment. Go check with Netflix or your local store, and because it's out on DVD and Blu-ray and stuff like that, you got to check out this movie because they don't use the term anywhere in it, but it's all about Ubuntu in every single scene, and it's about South Africa after the fall of apartheid and the journey that the country had, led by Nelson Mandela, played in the movie by Morgan Freeman, and in it they have. Here's the plot. The plot is real life. Nelson Mandela was elected the first president of South Africa coming out of prison, where he had been for 30 years, where he had been kept as a political prisoner on Robben Island outside of Cape Town. 30 years he was released, and he was elected president of the country. His first day in office, he had the challenge of unifying this very divisive country, and he chose to do it through the power of Ubuntu, a concept from their own culture. And so he had the journey. What would you do on your first day at work? We're going to step into Nelson Mandela's first day of work, where he's got this challenge ahead of him, and it starts with the immediate people that work with him, and it stems out from there. We're going to look at a conversation he had with his security detail from the movie. Wow. You ever think of forgiveness as a business tool? It is. How many times have you been upset because the manager didn't use your idea, or you're passed over for promotion, and you held a grudge against a coworker? What did that get you? How did it help you? Zero. Nada. You got to find a way to let go of that and to focus on the positive and how to be ready for the next opportunity. Forgiveness is a powerful freeing force. It's part of Ubuntu. Now let's go from there. Nelson Mandela said, if I cannot change when the circumstances demand it, how can I get others to change? Change starts from within. It doesn't start with out there. It starts with you and what you do differently and how you act on those beliefs and how others respond to it. Again, what we're doing together. In business, where I spend most of my focus, the common vision in business is very important, very powerful. And one of the clients that I work with is, you might have heard of, they're called Zappos. Anyone here shop at Zappos? Anyone? Sure. Woohoo, baby. Okay. I'm throwing this out the window. Okay. Zappos, they have their mission is to live and deliver wow. To live and deliver wow. Not to make more money, not to grow market share, to live and deliver wow, starting with their own employees. Okay, they figure that they're all about culture. If we set up a culture where people value what they're doing, who they're working with, where they enjoy coming to work, that's going to create a special competitive advantage that's going to roll over to how they treat our customers. They have exceptional customer service as a result, and they've been very successful with this as their secret sauce. I want to take you into their call center as just an example. Now, most call centers in America today are very punitive, very painful places to work. They're minimum wage jobs, they're high stress, with their high turnover, with the power of technology today, where we can micromanage how long someone's on the phone. You hang up the phone and it rings again every time. There's just like this for 8 hours. It's a burnout job. It's a miserable job. I know someone that worked in a call center. They'd come home from work. They'd have to go into a dark, quiet room, unplug the phone, and take about an hour to get back to some sense of normal. That's how it usually is. I want to take you into Zappos call center in Las Vegas. If you're ever there, stop by. They do free tours. They're in Henderson, right outside Las Vegas. And here's what you'll see. What do you think?
Hello, welcome right this way. We're so
Zappos. These guys are selling women's shoes, but they're talking about higher purpose. What are you talking about with your work group? You have a mission. You have an important role to play right now in our economy. Largest educational provider in Oregon. What are you doing to help lead the charge to connect people to the vision of the organization, to connect people to the community and to the employers and to the students? It's in your hands. How can you bring that alive a little bit more tomorrow and the day after? This is a concept that you can use to harness that power, to make it something that we're all in, we're all part of, to increase the pride, to allow people to have the line of sight and to touch the flame and to be a part of something that's larger than themselves. You have that going on right here. And you have a daily ability to impact and enhance that ability. So part of this is, this topic of Ubuntu is shared experiences, part of the practical aspect of how do we get there. More of a we versus an I. Well, part of it's shared experiences. We know all rapport comes from shared experiences. All rapport comes from shared experiences. What we have in common, the experience that we've shared, whether it's a meal or an activity or a team building activity. I want to share with you on my journeys, and I've worked with over 1,000 organizations at this point, some of the things that I've seen that work to help create this sense of unity, of purpose in organizations. For example, Disney's been a long-term client for over 15 years. They're part of my doctoral dissertation. They do, the theme parks in Anaheim and Orlando. They shut them down a couple times a year, and they invite everyone that works there to come experience the park as a customer, as a guest, to bring their family, to go on the rides. And the managers, they serve all the concessions. They wear the costumes, they run the rides. And just like that, they say we're all in it together. No one's more important than anyone else. We all have an equal tie to the mission. Every job is important. In fact, if anyone's the most important, it's the person picking up trash on the Disney property, because they're the one that gets the most requests for questions from guests. And when someone asks them, hey, where can we find Mickey Mouse? What they say and do in the next 20 seconds can make or break someone's vacation that they've saved up for years to attend. How should I know? Come on, I'm picking up trash. Wow, have you ever gotten that type of response in a store or whatnot? It's not my job, Okay, kids, let's go to the car. Or you could say, wow, let me tell you where you can find Mickey. Hey, where are you all from? What's your name? Mr. Johnson, pleasure to meet you. Wow. And let's go over, I'll show you. You guys are going to have a great time. What does that do for the family, for the experience? That's the family that's going to plan to rebook even before they leave, okay? Because they're making the magic happen, and they deliver it, and that's why they're the funnest place, the happiest place on earth. It's not by accident. It's not by Mickey Mouse magic or pixie dust. It's a basic blocking and tackling on some of these concepts we're talking about, Ubuntu being one of them. Mary Kay Cosmetics, Mary Kay Ash, out of Texas, they call it Spring Fling. They shut down the company every spring, and they have everyone that's in a white-collar job change places with those people in the manufacturing and blue-collar jobs to gain empathy for the other parties, other persons. Cash America, pawn shop brokers, everyone that works in that organization, whether it's the person answers the phone, the receptionist, on up to the CEO, every week spend 4 hours working in one of their pawn shops to have face-to-face contact with their customers and to build that relationship and the common experience that they're all connected to. At Marriott hotels, employees post vacation pictures on a common website, just as a way to get to know each other. And years ago, they had a customer call in and say, hey, I'm going to some country, I think it was Peru. I've never been there. Is there any place I should especially see or keep away from? And they said, well, God, I don't know. Let's put it out to our customer base and see who else has been there and connect the two of you. Well, that started them on a journey where they created a website just for customers to talk to other customers that have been to places around the globe. You know how many people use that website now on a daily basis? 7 million. 7 million. And as a service, they're providing that to the community, but people know it's through Marriott, and it helps to build their brand and link back to their mission and purpose. Beth Israel Hospital, they have doctors dress up as maintenance workers to see how they're treated by other employees, to make sure that there's a common element of respect that everyone is given at all times in our institution. At the Hyatt, several times a year, they have executives go out to properties, check in customers, carry their bags to their rooms, to kind of touch of what we're all about, to be on the front line so we're not too removed from that. At Land's End, they allow anyone that is bored in their job to move to another department automatically and to stay there for 2 weeks, at the end of which they say, would you rather work here than where you were? And you would, okay, you're staying. They would rather do that than lose a person because they've got a personality conflict, or they're bored, or they're not learning or growing. At Duke Power, they do the same type of thing across levels. They have any employee at Duke Power can post their own job on their company intranet to swap with anyone else of equal pay grade. My boss is a jerk. You try working with him. And it binds them stronger together as an organization, as a team, helping each other. At Epson Computers, they do a thing where they allow employees to have an executive internship. Last year, 29% of their employees served a stint as an executive intern, and they were part of the meetings and discussions. And when they went back to their job, they had a better understanding of the big picture, the mission of the organization, and were better able to see how their piece of it fit into that vision. It binds them tighter together. At Johnsonville Foods, the makers of those great brats in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, they have a part of their ongoing development for all employees is every employee is asked to shadow another employee of their choice in the organization each year. Kind of more than a cross-training, getting to know someone from a different department and what they do so you can better appreciate a different part of the organization. Over time, it makes everybody have greater empathy for each other and binds them together as an organization. And I can go on and on and on. You can do this stuff when you put your focus on it. It's very doable. It's not going to happen by magic, by accident. It can happen if you see it and you move on it and you act on it. You try something. You have a discussion. Like I said, I've worked with over 1,000 organizations. Everywhere I go, everywhere, companies of all sizes, all industries, all types, everyone seems to focus on what we can't do. We don't have the budget. We're unionized. We're too big. We're too small. And my appeal is to say, that's too easy. It's too easy to focus on what you can't do. Start with what you can do instead of what you can't. And say, yeah, we've got constraints. Anyone's got constraints. But within those constraints, if we could do something, what would that look like? That starts you in a very different conversation that leads into trying something, experimenting. If it works, and you take it further. It's a very powerful force that we have in any interaction, in any work group. Now, inspiration, again, is part of this topic. It is very inspiring. As we go back to Nelson Mandela and Ubuntu in South Africa, we saw him on the first day of work. Now he still had this challenge. Well, that's his own department there, the immediate work group, but how do you unify an entire nation? Wow. And as he worked on it, one of the things he noticed was that sports are very important, very big to the populace in South Africa, maybe everywhere. But in particular, he noticed that the whites were all about rugby, whereas the blacks were into soccer, or football, as they call it. And in fact, when they got in power, one of the first things the Athletic Association wanted to do was to outlaw rugby. We're going to take charge here. They're out of here. And he actually intervened. And he said, no, we have to do the opposite. We have to embrace rugby as our national sport. And everyone thought, he must be crazy. But he saw this as a window of opportunity to rally and unify the country. And this is really what the whole movie's about, Invictus. And so now how is he going to do that? Well, he called the captain of the rugby team, played in the movie by Matt Damon, to his office. He didn't say why. Let's see what they talked about. win the World Cup. He didn't say that. That would have been ridiculous if he did say that. He planted the seed. He painted the picture. He called upon him to be more than he thought he could be. And he took that as he wants us to win the World Cup. And he took that challenge to take back to the team. Now, if he came back and said, hey, you're not going to believe it, the president wants us to win the World Cup, like we weren't trying, now, it would be a joke. But that's not what happened. It's something else to pass a baton and have that person internally want to make it happen. And now he's got the challenge to how is he going to win over the team and focus their energies and set a goal that initially might seem beyond their reach. And the movie's about the journey that they take. Again, there's no car chases, no one dies, there's no sex. It's just a great movie about a great story about this concept. Now, and bring it back to business, Sir Richard Branson, he's kind of personifies this in business. And this here, what he has to say about the human element at work.
The conventional wisdom of most business schools is, specialize in the area you know best. Do not, go out of that area and spend your life, just tackling one particular area of business. So, by evolving as a company, we've survived. And in a sense, by breaking what the conventional wisdom was, we've survived. But I think it's just, and I also think it's important to realise that you don't have to be able to fly a plane or change the nuts and bolts on the engine to go into the airline business. You don't have to be an expert at the airline business. What you have to be good at is good with people. You have to be very good at finding wonderful people to run your companies. And I think early on I realised that if I could run one company well, I could run any company. It was just up to me to make sure I got the best people to run those companies and made sure that they were properly incentivized, properly motivated, and give them quite a lot of freedom to go ahead and make good things and make mistakes.
Make good things and make mistakes. What a great sentiment. As Bill Gates has said, you can tell a lot about the long-term viability of any organization simply by looking at how they handle mistakes. Because it's easy to find fault, it's easy to shut someone down, it's easy to take any idea. If it's such a great idea, how come we're not doing it already? Why didn't we do it 2 years ago? It's easy to cut people off at the pass. It's something else to lift them and say, that's a great idea there. Why don't you check on it, see what you can do with it? Let me know how I can help you. Okay, that's a different animal. That's a different animal that you can take a mistake someone makes and to turn it into a learning experience. I'm not sure I would have done it the same way, but what did you learn from that? That's something we all can be better as a result. That's the best training you could have had all year. Okay, so empathy, again, a big part of this is walking in someone else's shoes and defined as the ability to project one's personality into that of another in order to understand him or her better. Again, the finding rapport, that type of thing. When it comes back to again, Ubuntu and Invictus, in the movie, as the rugby team on their journey rallied around this goal, they gained more empathy from the president's perspective. And along the way, they had a chance to tour where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 17 of the 30 years that he was a political prisoner, again on Robben Island outside of Cape Town. And he spent, again, 30 years in prison for his beliefs and still forgave those that put him there and used it as a strength to unify a nation. Last clip from the Invictus I want to show you is that tour of Robben Island by the rugby team portrayed in the movie. Master my fate, captain my soul. Pretty heady stuff. We're all masters of our fate. We're all captains of our soul. What are you doing on your watch? What are you doing to make a difference with those that are important to you in your life, with those that you work with at school, at home, at church? You've got the power to make it better, to make it stronger, to unify your mission and purpose. Again, spoiler alert, they did win the World Cup that year. There's an actual shot from the winning goal when they played the All Blacks from New Zealand. And again, to get the rest of the details, you gotta watch the whole movie. I hope you do. But now, how do we translate that into this essence of a stronger team working together? Well, to continue the sports analogy, I want to take a different sport, basketball, and specifically the team, the Celtics. And this is the big three. I guess this is, they just traded this gentleman away, but this is the big three, they're called, from the Celtics. And they used this concept of Ubuntu to win a national championship title a number of years ago. And I want to share with what they did about that. It started with their head coach, Doc Rivers. And he heard about this concept, and at a media interview, someone asked him, "What's this whole Ubuntu thing?" Here's again what he said.
It caught me. It was great. I was sitting in a long board meeting at Marquette, and a lady next to me asked me if I'd ever heard of the phrase, and I said no. So obviously I didn't know what it meant, and she explained it to me. She'd been over there for 3 years in South Africa, and I told her, you will hear about that a lot. And then I did the research from there. I did a lot of reading about it and studying about it, and I thought it was a perfect phrase for our team, and it would take on its own life throughout the year. I really believe that, because the meaning is not a one-word meaning. It's a way of life and a way of being. And I thought for this team that was very, very important. And I thought they needed something to remind them of how important team and sacrifice is. So I thought it was a good phrase for them. To have a phrase that allowed them to be them, but also told them, a person's a person through other people. And, I thought for the big three, that part of Ubuntu was as important as any, because as good as you are, you can only be great or get what you want through other people, which means your teammates. And I thought for them, it was as important as anybody else on the team.
So that's what he brought to it. Now, how do we get the players to experience and feel it? Take a look at what they heard, what they got out of it, and how this helped to motivate them towards this group goal. They used Ubuntu to rally to win the national championship. The next year, they came down to the wire. They lost in the 7th game on the last shot to the Lakers. I tell you what, every year they're a contender through the power of this concept. Now they're getting older now. They're having change in players and whatnot. But still, this is a foundation of how they pull together to each be better than they are individually. To take those big three initially, they all came from different teams that had never won a championship. Only when they got together and started working together did they win one with the Celtics. And the final element, and I think I talk about this in every presentation I make of any topic, is the importance of recognition. The most proven principle, the greatest management principle in the world, is that you get what you reward. What you notice, what you inspect, what you recognize, what you reward, what you incentivize, which is a fancy way of saying you tell people what's going to happen if they achieve the result later, you will get more of, hands down, proven. We have hundreds and hundreds of studies that systematically speak to this. This is as close to fact as we know when it comes to dealing with people and performance of any type. Yet, you look around and people don't use it as much as they could, which is why I wrote this book, to kind of open people's eyes to say, it's all around you every day, just waiting for you to reach out and grab it and align it with the performance and the performer that are making things happen to our mutual advantage. On a daily basis, we can make this happen. So, it kind of begs the question, I get it a lot anyway, that why isn't money enough? It's kind of a tough world out there right now, high unemployment. We pay people pretty good. Why isn't that enough? I'm not going to coddle people. I paid my dues, they can pay their dues. We pay above industry average. That should be good enough. I don't know about you, but I hear that a lot. And it's a major thing I got to break through. And when I get a question like that in life, I always like to turn to a higher authority for guidance. And yes, I'm talking about Seinfeld. So, money's important. We need monies. Okay, we got to pay our bills, but sometimes it's the sizzle with the steak that really gives a meaning. It makes the connection, and we need more sizzle in our interactions with others. Now, a more serious response to that same question came from my professor, the late great Dr. Peter Drucker, who used to say that economic incentives are becoming rights rather than rewards. Merit raises are always introduced as rewards for exceptional performance. In no time at all, they become a right, they become an expectation, they become an entitlement. In most organizations today, what people are paid is expected, and yet they're looking for more than just the number on their paycheck. They're looking for meaning in their job, and purpose, and respect, and trust, and challenge, and learning, and growth. It's such a wide packet of behaviors and human emotions that we're dealing with. Money alone is not going to get us there. And so we've got to embrace other things. Rosebeth Moss Kanter at Harvard, compensation's a right, recognition's a gift. You've got to pay people, okay? That's the deal. But recognition you don't have to do. Part of the power of why it speaks to people and means so much is the fact that it's optional. If you choose to use it, if you choose to do it, it resonates with people. In fact, you really know you got someone, if you do something and someone says, you ever had someone say, you didn't have to do that? I know I didn't. I wanted to do it because of what you did for us and for our team and for me. It was a joy to do it. You know you got him, you know you made the connection. And that will bind that person to you and to your group more than anything else you can possibly do. This is what I've seen. When you get serious about performance, you have to get serious about recognition. They go hand in hand. But we have a big divide in our country about this simple concept. Organizations of any type are serious about performance, okay, the numbers, the market share, profitability. But what they do, they aren't as good as recognizing those things that are important to our success. They tend to do other things over here that aren't related to performance when it comes to recognition. Like I say, a lot of companies all asking, well, what are you doing around recognition? Oh, we're all over it. We are all over it. We had a summer picnic. We have years of service awards, 5, 10, 15 years. We have one day a month for whoever has a birthday this month. We have a cake in the meeting room to appreciate that. We do Employee of the Month. And Employee of the Month, and you do it the first time, a little excitement, and then inevitably you get to a point where there's a group sitting around a table, maybe 2 months later, maybe it's 10 months later, that someone goes, hey, we got to do Employee of the Month. What? We just did that. Yeah, another month went by. Oh my God. Okay. What about Betty at the front desk? She is so good with our patients. Well, she got it in February. Oh, I forgot. You can only be excellent once in this organization. Betty's off the table. So now it's like, well, come on, we're gonna be here all day. How about Fred? Fred in shipping. Well, does he deserve it? Who cares? Come on, we gotta move on with things. And so you give it to Fred. What does Fred say? I knew if I hung around here long enough, someone would notice me. You turned it into an endurance award. This is how we do recognition in this country. Okay? And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Recognition has to be meaningful. It has to be specific. It has to be timely. It has to be around performance and performance that made a difference in our mutual success. Okay, that's where it starts. Not with what everyone else is doing, but what do your employees want? And taking time to find out by asking them or surveying them or having a focus group and giving them those things not as a perk, but as a reward for performance of them individually or of our team and our group success or of our organizational success. This is so fundamental in understanding this concept. I want to tell you a story. The idea of contingency. The best recognition is based on performance that makes a difference. And the story is about these two gentlemen that both died the same day. One was a New York City cab driver. The other was a Baptist minister. And they got up to the pearly gates, and St. Peter was there. And heaven's online these days. He had his iPad to review their lives. And the first gentleman was this cab driver. He was quite impressed. St. Peter issued him flowing robes, his own personal cloud, an assistant with a harp waved him into heaven. And right behind him was this minister. He reviewed his life and issued him a loincloth. And the minister said, I don't want to seem ungrateful to be here in heaven. I'm delighted to be here, but I've got to ask why you seemingly treated that cab driver so much better than myself when I spent my entire life in the service of the Lord. And St. Peter said, well, we've moved towards a pay-for-performance system here in heaven. And basically, as you preached, people slept. As that cab driver drove, people prayed. So it's happening everywhere. It's alignment. And it's got to happen on your watch, in your sphere of influence. So, this could be anything. Hewlett-Packard, a senior software engineer, burst into his manager's office one day and said, you won't believe it, I fixed a software bug. He'd been working on it for weeks. That manager, knowing the importance of a timely recognition, wanted to do something then and there, in the moment. This is capturing the essence of management, of motivation, in the moment. Not the end of the month, not the end of the quarter. Heaven forbid the end of the year. Ancient history in any fast-moving organization. Capturing the moment in the moment. This manager literally grew up down on his desk, hands the senior software engineer a banana from his lunch. With the words, great job, I knew you could do it. Now, I'm not sure how you'd feel if your boss gave you a banana one day. That might seem kind of silly, but this guy showed everyone the banana the boss gave him and why it took on a life of story of its own. Today in that division, at Hewlett-Packard, Sunnyvale, California, 17 years later, the most prestigious award for technical achievement was the Golden Banana Award. Not the same banana, they retired that puppy, they created a plaque. The point is that it's all around us every day. As you experiment and you try something that resonates with your employees, work with it, save that one, build on it, leverage. So traction and leverage is what I'm about. They now have, when someone gets that honor, they get a little lapel pin, goes on their name badge. It becomes they've joined an elite club, a performance club in that corporation. That happens to drive a lot of focus and attention on which happens to be their most highly paid technical staff. It works. Whether that would work for you, I don't know, but you can find things that do work for you. At Busch Gardens, for example, they give all their supervisors tokens. I got one here, Anheuser-Busch, making friends is our business, thank you. And they give all supervisors tokens. When you see an employee, even one that you haven't met, even one that doesn't work for you, you see them doing one of our core values. For them, that's safety, service, teamwork, that type of thing. Give them one of these tokens. Capture the moment in the moment, on-the-spot award. And so someone sees an employee helping somebody carry boxes, no one asked them to do that. That's teamwork. Thanks for chipping in. You see another employee that's making a guest laugh in a long line on a hot day. You got a gift. Service with a smile. Way to go. And the way this program works is that the employee can turn this into payroll and get an extra $20 in their next paycheck. They told me, Bob, nobody turns them in. This means more. This symbolically captured a moment in time, an interaction between them and someone else in the organization around a good job they had done that had merit beyond their own position title. Simple but powerful. Something they serves as a multiplier effect. As they save it, they can show their kids, look what Dad got. They can be out with a colleague at lunch and pull out change and, hey, you got one of those token things. Yeah, what'd you do for that? Well, I had an idea. I thought it could save us some money. My boss agreed. I got one of these. Really? Well, I've got an idea. I'm going to turn it in. And you get this multiplier effect. This is the power of this concept. As you identify what impacts our mutual success, as you call someone out, not only do you make them feel good and increase the likelihood they will repeat that behavior or performance, but everyone else that sees it, that hears about it, that knows of it, you send a message to them too. This is the type of thing that gets noticed around here. This is what's going to make this a greater place for work for everybody. And it's a powerful force. As you move in that direction, you get to the point where you create a culture of recognition. A very powerful thing. And I can tell you as a fact from the research that if you create a culture of recognition, your employees will report to the person they'll be 5 times more likely to feel valued. than an organization that does not make this a priority. They will be 7 times more likely to stay with the organization. They will be 11 times more committed to the mission and vision of the organization. Guaranteed. And we know from engagement research that someone that's truly committed to their job will put in 57% more discretionary effort. This is harnessing the power of the human element, and it's very doable on your watch, in your sphere of influence, with things that you do on a daily basis. One more example here. You can, so you can say this, okay, I'm going to do something nice for people. I'm going to bring in, tomorrow's Friday, I'm going to bring in donuts. What a nice thing to do, bring in donuts. And you do that, and everyone loves it. And next Friday, it's a beautiful day out still, and I'm going to bring in donuts again. What's going to happen the third Friday? You know darn well what's going to happen. Hey, where are the donuts? It's Donut Friday after all. And except for now, it's not good enough that just there's donuts. Hey, can we get some with the little sprinklies on them? And you got the wrong type of donuts. And you're taking orders for bear claws and fruit fillings. And you're going, what's wrong with this picture? And what's wrong with it, my friends, is you slipped on the entitlement slope. Do not do this stuff just to be nice. Do it for a purpose, for a reason. Do it when there's something to celebrate. So use donuts, unless people are dieting, then don't use donuts. But if they use donuts, but have it be for a personal best in customer service scores, have it be for someone finishing a degree to celebrate and acknowledge Kathy. Do it because someone had an idea that we're going to try. Do it to focus on performances that could make us collectively better. You'll be stronger for it, and you'll end up with a culture of performance instead of a culture of entitlement. All behavior is controlled by its consequences. This is straight out of reinforcement theory in the management literature. To any type of behavior, you got 3 possible consequences: positive, negative, or no consequence. Most employees report that where they work, they don't get any consequences. They want to do a good job, they want to make a difference, and they really don't get much direction or support, and unless they make a mistake. And then like a lightning rod, they get a negative consequence. This is how most managers manage, that they are experts at finding fault, catching people doing things right. And they never really get to, and they really don't have time, and they're not interested in doing the positive consequence. To thank people for something they did, I shouldn't have to do that. They spend all their time here just finding fault and not doing anything. And in my experience, people want to be magnificent. They want to be something larger than themselves. And no one comes to work and says, "I think I'll really mess up at work today. I think I'll make my manager's job a living hell. That'll be fun." I haven't met all your employees, but in general, they want to be magnificent if you give them half a chance. And you acknowledge it when they make success. If you have a boss that perfects this type of thing, sometimes we call this leave alone zap. Most prominent form of management in our country, leave alone zap. And you get someone that's really good at that. Sometimes we call them a seagull manager. Now, a seagull manager is someone that's not around very much. One day they fly into the department, they make a lot of noise, and they swoop out. And the new employee goes, "Who was that?" That was the big guy, number one. I said, "Oh my gosh, what a jerk. Let me know when he's coming back. I'm going to take my break then," and that's seagull management. So you can have managers that perfect the excellence. And actually, the truth be known now, increasingly, and this started in education, by the way, that the whole movement, the bullying movement, has made its way now into organizations. That now increasingly, I was just working with an agency in D.C., Two managers got fired for bullying. Well, they'd been doing what they'd done for years, taking names and kicking butt. Well, except for now we got a new term to call it. That's bullying. You cannot do that here, and you're out of a job. And so we're seeing that, and thank you, education, for bringing that to help us make that move in the real world. Now, so to any form, and what's the most powerful is the positive is actually done the least. Actually, new research is coming out next week's Wall Street Journal. Sue Schellenberger, writes the workplace columnist, interviewed me at length, and they are, you're getting a scoop here, they are releasing new research on employee recognition. And what they found, and it's, so don't tell anyone, it could be our secret, November 21st, though, they're writing it up, is that as they asked people where they got praise in their life, everyone said they got the least praise at work, but that had the potential of having the greatest meaning to them, if only we can find a way to make it happen. And it was, research again validates that, again, we need this, where we spend the bulk of our waking hours, we need this, we're yearning for it, especially in fast-moving, dynamic times when there's so much negativity and change. We gotta be experts at camping out the positive. In research at Ohio State University, for example, they tried to quantify the relative weight of these different approaches. They found the positive consequences were 4 times more powerful than the other approaches, 4-to-1 ratio. That's to say that for every time you're in a bad mood, and you take it out on an employee, that you reprimand them, you cut them off in a meeting, you don't invite them to lunch, you exclude them. There's all sorts of ways that we have negative sanctions. You got to do at least 4 things with that same person to create an even keel in your relationship. In Gallup, in their research last year, they came out, they quantified a 6-to-1 ratio. Dr. Stephen Covey, a late great Dr. Covey, he used to talk about a 7-to-1 ratio. As we are in more fast-moving, high-tech times, and times of constant change, we have to each, to a person, be better at staking out what's going well, because that's our hope to build around that. As an individual, for any one person, as a team. At Disney, last time I was there, I had a manager tell me that whenever I start a staff meeting, whenever we have a staff meeting, we always start with the same agenda item. Name 5 things that are going well for us. 5 things. And sometimes we go bam, 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 bam. Sometimes we got to work at it. But we do not go on to the second item until we can do that. That's our home room. That's our touch point. That's our foundation on which we can take on new challenges. And it's important to them. At Bank of America, I worked with them, that point, 210,000 employees. They decided this is so critical today in the realization of their strategic objectives that they set a policy and mandated that every meeting in the corporation of any size, 3 people, 300 people, 3,000 people, will start with some type of recognition to remind us of the power of what we've achieved and our ability to work together to take on the challenges of today and tomorrow. It's not just a feel-good thing, it's a practical thing that we all need. This also, I always feel compelled to remind people, this isn't just true at work. It's true in the classroom, it's true on the playing field, it's true with your family, with your spouse, it's true with your kids. If you want your kids to pick up the room, stop yelling at them for not doing it. How's that working for you? Yeah, right, I didn't think so. And start noticing it when they do. Well, they never do? Well, what about the time they carried up folded laundry? Did you say something? That's praising progress towards an end goal. And it's a powerful shaper of behavior in anyone's life. I mentioned my 2 kids, Danny and Michelle. I remember when Danny was 5 years old. He came home from preschool, and he announced he'd like to take piano lessons. My wife and I were delighted. We'd never played a musical instrument. Sure, Danny, you can take piano lessons. Now, we could have said, if we spend good money on piano lessons, you have to practice every day. Do I have to? That's the deal. You come home from school before any TV turns on, before any video games, 45 minutes at the piano. I've had parents tell me that at the point where they said that, the kids said, I'm no longer interested. Nobody likes to be forced to do anything today, okay? Even your own kids. So we didn't want to do that. So Jennifer and I would talk about it. So what could we do? Well, why don't we notice it when he does that behavior? Right now it's an intrinsic motivation. How can we get behind him and fan the flame of that intrinsic motivation in a very practical way? So, well, we're not going to tell him what to do, but if he chooses to practice piano, we're going to say something. Danny, those scales are coming along great. That song, did you pick it out? We know he did. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Get Grandma on the phone. We made a big deal out of it. After a couple weeks, Danny said, could I take lessons twice a week? Yeah, that'd be fine. He actually, on his own, as we reinforce that intrinsic motivation, becomes a greater part of who he is until at some point we're out of the picture. And he's off and running on his own. And he went through 10 years of classical piano, and then he got interested in guitar and playing classical guitar. He actually, when he graduated, he went high school. He went to Northwestern School of Music in classical guitar. one of 5 selected around the world at the time. He graduated last May. He spent last summer in Italy working with a master. He spent the summer before that in Egypt learning the oud. And part of that summer was in Spain, where the lute came from, which is the predecessor of the guitar. Part of why I mentioned he took 3 years of Arabic was to better understand this instrument. He tells me that he hears tonality he couldn't previously hear before he understood Arabic, the birthplace of the string instrument. I got no idea where this is going. I got no idea where it came from. But I know as sure as I'm standing here that I can have an impact on someone who happens to be my son in a way that will last him forever, in the same way that you have impact on those people that are important in your lives. So you take the short list of people in your life that are most important to you, that are most impactful of your happiness and success. Family, friends, teachers, colleagues, your boss, your employees, some relatives. That short list for any of us is maybe a dozen people, maybe a few more, maybe a few less. The point that you take anyone on that list for granted is the point that you risk losing them from your life. It's that simple. I don't want any of you to be surprised one day when one of your best employees announces, "I'm leaving." You can't leave. I need you here. Yeah, right. I can't remember the last time I heard that. Oh, I can actually. It was during the interview process 5 years ago when I took this job. Did I ever feel special to come work for you in this area? Yeah. Tuesday's my last day. Well, where are you going? What are they paying you more? Yeah, they gave me a bump. What was the manager, typical manager does? They call up human resources. We got to do something about salaries. We're starting to lose people. Is that person going just to get a little bit more money somewhere else? Not likely. They go in because there's no reason to stay. They're not learning. They're not challenged. They don't feel part of the team. They're not trusted. They're not respected. There's nothing going on. They had to eventually come to the point that they got to find someplace else where they can have a better mission, a better purpose in life. Thanks, Danny. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. Ubuntu is the book. I also have, I think we're doing pretty good on time. I brought another product that is a perpetual calendar. I wanted to give to anyone that had a question, 365 ways to manage better. I'm all about how to create tools to help people harness the power of these concepts in their specific sphere of influence. You should have got, when you came in, a little wallet card on how to do a great praising. Again, that's something you can do in 10 seconds. It's got to be as soon as sincere, specific, as personal, as positive, and proactive as possible. Sounds like a lot. 10 seconds flat, you can do it. And doing so creates a power that you can use on a daily basis with anyone that's important to you, whether it's an employee or a colleague or your spouse. You can't be like the old Norwegian couple that was married 50 years, and on their 50th anniversary, Ina turns to Olaf and says, "Olaf, you never tell me you love me." Olaf shoots back, "Ina, I told you the day we were married, I love you. If I ever change my mind, you'll be the very first person to know." That's not going to work, in this day and age. You've got to actually show the intentions on a daily basis, or your spouse. And people never get tired of hearing. Your spouse never get tired of hearing you say that you love them. It won't happen. That if you do it and it's sincere, that it's a powerful reinforcer. Or take my wife, Jennifer, back in San Diego. She recently said, "Bob, I'm not sure you noticed a new couple that moved in next door." I said, "Yeah, John and Mary." "Yeah." "Well, I've noticed, and every morning when John goes to work, he gives Mary this big sloppy kiss on the front doorstep. Every night when he comes home, the exact same thing. And on Fridays, without exception, he brings home a dozen long-stem roses." And she gave me this look that I know some of you guys probably got from your wife. And she said, "Why can't you do that?" And I thought for a moment. I said, "Well, honey, I suppose I could, but I barely know the girl." So at any rate, I don't know if there are any questions, but I'd be willing to entertain them. If not, let me leave you with one one thought from Muhammad Gandhi, who said, if you're to change anything today, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. It doesn't start out there, it starts in here. It starts in here with you seeing things differently, with your behaviors and acting on the things you believe and having that spread to others, of you modeling the things that are important to you in your life. And as you do that, you will attract an energy. You will be a magnet for talent, and people will scurry to want to work with you because they want to be part of whatever it is that you're drinking. They want to be part of that with a vengeance. Thank you so much for your kind attention.